Just hours after the Ryazan incident, Alexander Zdanovich had appeared on Hero of the Day on NTV, but he didn't mention an exercise. His accusers say that either the excuse hadn't yet been conjured up, or he was buying time for the Moscow FSB bombers to escape. But he was already downplaying the Ryazan affair.
According to the information currently in my possession, no explosives were discovered. Even the reports that came out on the morning supposedly analyzing hexogen fumes or hexogen haven't been confirmed by our specialists.
And the detonator?
You know, there weren't any detonators. There were things that only looked a bit like a remote control or several components of an explosive device.
But many of the tenants of the building had seen the contents of the bags that were planted in their basement, and the substance did not resemble sugar.
I saw those bags lying there, no more than 10 feet away. They looked like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't hexogen that was in them, but to start with, it was yellowish and really fine, like chopped vermicelli, some kind of granules, I'd say.
I can assure you with total confidence that there wasn't any hexogen. And, by the way, to go back to the explosions that happened in Moscow and other cities, there was no hexogen there either. A quite different explosive was used.
6 months earlier, the leaders of the FSB had said something entirely different about the explosions in Moscow.
We have received new information that traces of hexogen and TNT were discovered. This already indicates that the explosion was definitely not an accident.
So why did the FSB suddenly start denying that hexogen had been used in other bomb massacres? It's alleged this was to eliminate the similarities between the real bombings and the so-called exercise in Ryazan.
At various different stages, the discovery of the explosive and the gas, the analysis, the panic, the FSB had several opportunities to make a prompt announcement that this was an exercise. Why was that not done? Because the FSB didn't think anyone would pick up the trail. Just at the moment when the terrorists were about to be arrested in Ryazan, when the people and their hiding place had been identified, at that moment Patrushev announced that there was an exercise going on. And so the announcement by Patrushev himself that exercises were going on in Ryazan was, of course, an indication that the terrorist attack had been planned from the top, and with Patrushev's knowledge.
In order to support their exercise explanation, the FSB produced an agent who'd been involved. The public was presented with a back-to-camera interview of a special services officer.
Following orders issued by my superiors at the FSB, as the first step in Operation Anti-Terror Whirlwind, our group was instructed to go to Ryazan to carry out a mission. And that's what we did. We bought sugar and made an imitation detonator. The 3 bags of sugar were purchased at the local market.
In order to lend the exercise version credibility, the leaders of the FSB appealed to veterans from its own special units to put on a show of corporate solidarity.
Putin has said there are no ex-secret service agents. That's simply the kind of people we are, and no matter what happens, we never retire.
The Special Services veterans were poorly rehearsed for the press conference. Or perhaps they simply learned their lines badly.
They deliberately pasted over the front plate like the paper said and wrote the number in ink. They deliberately didn't paste over the back number because it might attract attention.
I went back to have a look at the rear number plate, and sure enough it was the same. A piece of paper with 62 on it, taped over the end of the registration number.
Our FSB officers went down there and worked out why the sample analysed had indicated the presence of an explosive. The kind of instrument used for analysis has to be absolutely sterile. But there was old sample material still in it.
But what does practically no explosives mean? The FSB claimed the analysis was tainted, maybe to cast doubt on the first analysis of the sack's contents by local explosives expert Yuri Tkachenko.
Tkachenko himself was very amused by the statements from the FSB Public Relations Center that his hands and the test instrument were tainted and that he hadn't washed the instrument down. According to Tkachenko, that kind of instrument should never be washed.
In the numerous interviews with the Wimpel FSB groups who supposedly took part in the operation, not even the times of their arrival added up. They claimed to have left Moscow on the evening of the same day. But anyone who's traveled from Moscow to Ryazan by car knows that it's physically impossible, whatever speed you're going at, to get to Ryazan so quickly as to have the time to buy sugar in the local market.
The FSB claimed the sugar had been bought in the evening, but an operations photo was taken in daylight. In the face of such major discrepancies, the FSB stuck to their story.
It was sugar, sugar. As for the explosion of the detonator, there wasn't any detonator at all. They bought 3 batteries in a shop, a shotgun cartridge, wires and all the rest, made a mock-up and put it on the bags of sugar.
The FSB spokesman tries to cover every point like a report, but he doesn't mention the most important part of the detonator, the electronic watch. And furthermore, as the explosives expert Tkachenko stated, the detonator was not placed on the bags.
There were 3 bags. The one in the middle had a hole in it. There was an electronic watch inside with wires coming off it. I put my hands in and started gently taking the wires out of the bag.
There's one surefire way of blocking investigation: turn to the official secrets laws.
We have people on our secret staff, but we never show them. The pictures we released, when they related the details, were taken from behind. But by all means, show them again.
Don't bother. According to what the boss of your investigative department says, there was a cartridge, an imitation detonator. So why didn't Sergeyev figure out it was a mock-up? Stop trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
Let's start from the fact that they told us it was sugar in the bags. Does this mean that neither the FSB specialists nor the Interior Ministry know what sugar looks like?
People who've seen hexogen just once in their lives could never take it for sugar. You just have to put a bit on your tongue and taste it. You can tell in a couple of seconds. There are no explosives with a sweet taste.
Could the evaporation detector have mistaken sugar for hexogen?
No, it's not possible.
And yet an analysis that requires just a few minutes was dragged out for 6 months in the FSB laboratories.
As soon as the investigation's over, I'm prepared to meet you again and give all the details.
When might that be?
That I can't say.
How can it take several months to analyze sugar?
Well, there's a queue, you know the way it is.
In its efforts to be seen to be doing everything by the book, the FSB went to the point of absurdity.
The bags that the FSB claims contain sugar, that we're convinced contained hexogen, were confiscated, and then it was announced that the bags were undergoing further analysis. Now, if it is sugar, and we're sure of that, why do we need this analysis? And after that, they were blown up in a safe zone. But if you know it's sugar, why do you need to blow it up?
A bombing attempt or a blundered exercise? The FSB continued to serve up explanations with no apparent concern for how ridiculous this sometimes appeared.
The material evidence in this inquiry is sealed in this bag. We can't open it without the permission of a judge. But we brought it with us especially to show that it was properly documented and all is on the record. So there's no question you can go on saying it's explosive when it's sugar.
The FSB are watertight against investigation. Once again, when the chips were down, they resorted to their final protection, state secrecy.
I repeat, we're a secret service, and as such we use all means at our disposal in the law to carry out operations that you're not aware of and shouldn't be aware of, apart from what's stipulated by the law. We're talking about state secrets.
Even this is inaccurate. In the law on operational and investigative activity, not only is there no article about exercises, the word is not even mentioned. So the operation in Ryazan was clearly carried out on some other basis.
I've been sitting here and I don't believe these fairy tales I've been hearing from the FSB.